Ever wondered what makes older people who enjoy being alone so unique? In this video, we're uncovering 12 incredible qualities that set them apart, qualities that might just inspire you to embrace solitude in a whole new way. Stick with us until the end for a surprising twist that'll change how you see independence. You don't want to miss this. Number 1. Self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency is like a superpower that people who enjoy their own company seem to have mastered. It's not just about doing things on their own, it's about thriving while doing so. These individuals are perfectly at ease being their own biggest supporters, cheerleaders, and problem solvers. They've built a life where they rely less on external validation and more on their own abilities, which is something a lot of people admire but few actually achieve. Think about it, when someone chooses solitude, it's not because they're running away from people. It's because they're running toward themselves. They've learned how to navigate life's twists and turns without constantly leaning on others. Whether it's handling daily chores, managing finances, or finding ways to keep themselves entertained, they've got it covered. And the cool part? They don't just survive in their solitude, they thrive. Now, self-sufficiency doesn't mean they shut people out or reject help when it's genuinely needed. Nope, that's not their style. Instead, they've cultivated this amazing ability to find balance. They can handle their business solo, but they're also smart enough to know when to connect, collaborate, or reach out for advice. It's not about isolation, it's about independence. There's a quiet confidence that comes with being self-sufficient. These folks don't panic when things go sideways. A busted pipe? They'll figure out how to fix it, or at least how to find someone who can. An unexpected challenge at work? They're not losing sleep over it, they're crafting solutions. They trust themselves to handle life's curveballs, which gives them a certain calmness that others find magnetic. What's also fascinating is how self-sufficient people redefine the idea of fun. They're not waiting for someone else to make plans or entertain them. They're out there exploring hobbies, diving into books, learning new skills, or just enjoying a peaceful evening with their thoughts. They find joy in the simplicity of being. And that's powerful because it means they're not reliant on anyone else to feel fulfilled. But here's the thing, self-sufficiency doesn't come without effort. It takes a lot of inner work to get to a place where you're genuinely comfortable relying on yourself. These individuals have likely spent years building their skills, understanding their emotions, and learning how to meet their own needs. It's not about being perfect, it's about being resourceful, adaptable, and resilient. And let's be real, in a world where so many people are glued to their phones, seeking likes and comments for validation, self-sufficient people are a breath of fresh air. They don't need the applause. They're already clapping for themselves, and that's what makes them so inspiring. In the end, self-sufficiency is not just a skill, it's a lifestyle. It's about knowing you're enough, just as you are, and living a life that reflects that truth. It's no wonder these folks cherish their alone time, they've got everything they need within themselves. Number 2. Unwavering focus on personal growth. There's something truly fascinating about older folks who enjoy their own company. They're like finely aged wine, complex, rich, and full of depth. One of their standout qualities? An almost magnetic pull toward personal growth. It's not that they're chasing perfection or ticking boxes on some imaginary self-improvement chart. No, it's more organic, like a natural curiosity about how they can be better, not for others, but for themselves. When you spend a lot of time alone, you inevitably spend a lot of time with you. You start to notice things most people brush off in the noise of daily life. Maybe it's how you react when plans go sideways or the way you talk to yourself on tough days. Instead of running from these moments, people who relish solitude lean in. They treat these observations as breadcrumbs leading them to a better version of themselves. And let's face it, that's no small thing. What makes their approach unique is the intensity of their focus. They don't dabble in self-improvement as a hobby or a quick fix. It's more like a slow burn commitment to leveling up, not for external validation, but because growth feels good. It's almost like a private game they play, testing their limits, tweaking their habits, and evolving their mindset. They get a quiet thrill from figuring out how to stay calm when life gets stormy or how to find joy in the little things most people miss. They're their own biggest project, and they approach it with patience and a lot of heart. Now, here's the kicker: this focus on growth doesn't feel like work to them. It's woven into the fabric of their everyday lives. Whether it's diving into a book that challenges their perspective, reflecting on their actions at the end of the day, or even sitting in silence to understand what their gut is trying to tell them, it's all part of the process. They've mastered the art of listening, not just to others, but to themselves. And let's talk about resilience. People who value solitude tend to develop an inner strength that's hard to shake. By constantly striving to understand themselves better, they build a kind of mental armor. Challenges still hit them, of course, but they don't crumble. Instead, they adapt, learn, and come out the other side with a deeper sense of who they are. They view setbacks not as failures, but as detours, opportunities to grow in ways they didn't expect. At the heart of it all is this idea: growth isn't a destination, it's a journey. And these solitary souls are perfectly okay with taking the long road. They've got no one to impress, no deadlines to meet, and no race to run. It's just them, their thoughts, and a quiet determination to keep becoming the best version of themselves. And honestly, that kind of focus is rare, beautiful, and a little bit magical. Number 3, high tolerance for silence. Ever notice how some people can sit in absolute silence and seem completely at ease? Like, they're not fidgeting, looking at their phones, or feeling the need to fill the air with words. That's the vibe of older folks who enjoy their alone time. They have this almost magical ability to just be. It's not awkward or boring for them, it's their comfort zone. Silence isn't empty for these people, it's full of peace, reflection, and clarity. Now, let's be real, silence can feel super uncomfortable for a lot of us. Think about those moments when you're in an elevator with a stranger. It's like every second stretches into eternity. But for someone with a high tolerance for quiet, that same silence feels like a warm blanket. They don't see it as a void, they see it as a chance to breathe, think, or even just exist without the noise of the world crashing in. It's almost like they've built this inner strength over time, and silence is their fortress. One of the coolest things about their love for silence is how they can use it to recharge. You know how some people feel drained after a long day of constant chatter, meetings, or noise from a bustling world? Older people who embrace solitude seem to have cracked the code. They've figured out that silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's like a reset button for their mind and spirit. It's their way of tuning out the static of life so they can tune into their own thoughts. And it's not just about being okay with quiet, it's about thriving in it. When you're comfortable with silence, you don't rush to fill it with meaningless chatter. You don't need external distractions to feel whole. You can just sit there, maybe sipping on tea or gazing out the window, and let your thoughts flow freely. It's like they've turned silence into their personal sanctuary, a place where they can sort through their thoughts or even just enjoy the stillness. This high tolerance for silence also gives them an edge when it comes to listening. Since they're not uncomfortable with quiet moments, they're less likely to interrupt or feel the need to jump in with their opinions. They're the kind of people who let you talk, pause, and collect your thoughts without rushing you. They're patient in a way that's rare these days. It's almost like they've trained themselves to see the beauty in those small gaps between words. But don't get it twisted, they're not shutting out the world. They're just selective about the noise they let in. They value conversations, but they also understand that silence can speak volumes. To them, silence is a form of connection, with themselves, with their surroundings, and even with other people who understand the same language of quiet. So yeah, while silence might make some of us squirm, these folks treat it like an old friend. And honestly, that's a pretty amazing quality to have in a world that never seems to stop talking. Number 4, authenticity in actions and decisions. When it comes to authenticity, older people who enjoy their own company seem to have cracked the code. They live and breathe it, not as some trendy buzzword but as a deeply ingrained way of being. For them, it's about showing up in the world as they are, without masks or pretenses. Their actions and decisions reflect their true values, beliefs, and priorities, not what society expects or what others might think they should do. And honestly, that's kind of rare these days, isn't it? Being authentic means they've stopped trying to fit into boxes or live up to other people's expectations. They've been there, done that, and frankly, it doesn't interest them anymore. They're not making choices to impress anyone or gain approval. Instead, they focus on what feels right for them, even if it's not the most popular or conventional path. It's not about being rebellious for the sake of it, it's about being real. What makes this so refreshing is the clarity it brings. When these individuals decide something, you know it comes from a genuine place. There's no guessing game, no hidden agenda. Whether it's a big life decision or a seemingly small everyday choice, it all aligns with who they truly are. That kind of consistency is rare and incredibly inspiring. It's like their internal compass is so finely tuned that it always points to their personal truth. And here's the thing, authenticity doesn't mean they're perfect or always right. Far from it. They've made their fair share of mistakes, but those missteps have taught them to own their choices, good or bad. They don't waste energy pretending to be something they're not or covering up flaws. If anything, they embrace those imperfections because they know that's what makes them human and relatable. Another cool aspect of their authenticity is how it makes them so trustworthy. When someone consistently acts in alignment with their true self, you can't help but feel a sense of respect for them. You know where they stand. They're not going to say one thing and do another. And they're definitely not going to tell you what you want to hear just to keep the peace. They value honesty, not in a harsh, unkind way, but in a grounded, straightforward manner that feels more real than anything else. Their authenticity also shines in the way they handle relationships. They're not in the business of playing games or putting up facades. The connections they form are genuine, built on mutual respect and understanding. And if something, or someone, doesn't align with their values, they're not afraid to walk away. It's not about being cold or dismissive, it's about protecting their peace and staying true to themselves. In the end, this unwavering commitment to authenticity is one of their most admirable qualities. It's not flashy or loud, but it's deeply impactful. It's the quiet confidence of knowing who you are, what you stand for, and living in a way that honors that every single day. That's the kind of energy that leaves a lasting impression. Number 5. Enhanced ability to manage time alone productively. Older people who enjoy their own company have a knack for something that feels almost like a superpower. They know how to make their alone time count. It's not just about filling the hours, it's about squeezing meaning, growth, and joy out of every moment. Their approach to time is deliberate, even artistic, and it's fascinating to watch, or imagine. First, let's start with the basics. They don't see being alone as empty space to fill. To them, solitude is an open canvas, brimming with possibility. Whether it's diving into hobbies, tackling long-term goals, or simply getting lost in thought, they know how to shape their day so it feels both satisfying and intentional. Their time management isn't rigid or dictated by endless to-do lists. Instead, it's intuitive, flowing like a river, calm when it needs to be, swift when the moment calls for it. What really sets them apart is their ability to balance productivity with presence. They're not about that hustle-all-day mentality. Nope, they've learned that being productive isn't just about doing more, it's about doing better. This could mean dedicating an hour to something deeply fulfilling or taking time to recharge so they can give their best effort later. Their approach is more about quality than quantity, and it's refreshing. But here's the thing, this ability didn't just fall out of the sky. It's a skill they've honed over time. Being alone teaches you a lot about yourself, what you value, what drains you, and what fuels you. These older, solitude-loving folks have taken those lessons to heart. They've figured out how to focus without distractions, how to prioritize without guilt, and how to pace themselves so they don't burn out. There's no rushing, no frantic energy. Just a steady rhythm that works. Another layer to their productivity is their creativity. Time alone gives them the freedom to explore their thoughts, and this often leads to bursts of inspiration. Whether they're creating something tangible or just connecting the dots between ideas, they use their time to spark new possibilities. It's not forced, it's just what happens when your mind has room to breathe. Of course, there's also a sense of balance in how they approach their alone time. They know when to work hard and when to rest, when to plan and when to just be. They're not afraid to unplug, step back, and enjoy a quiet moment with their own thoughts. And let's be honest, in a world that's constantly pulling us in a million directions, that's a rare and valuable skill. Ultimately, their ability to manage time alone productively is rooted in self-awareness. They've figured out what makes them tick and what doesn't, and they use that knowledge to make their solitude meaningful. It's not about keeping busy, it's about being intentional. And in that intentionality lies the magic. They don't just spend time, they live it fully, on their own terms. Number 6, resilience. Resilience. It's not just a word, it's a vibe, a way of living that older people who enjoy their own company have mastered. These are the folks who have been through some storms, maybe a few hurricanes, too, and still manage to come out on the other side, standing tall. They're like trees with roots so deep that even the wildest winds can't knock them down. Now, what's fascinating about their resilience is how quiet and understated it can be. They don't brag about the challenges they've overcome or the heartbreaks they've survived. They just carry it with them, like a well-worn jacket that's seen better days but still fits perfectly. There's a strength in that, right? It's not flashy, but it's real. It's the kind of resilience that grows from facing life's ups and downs alone, not because they had to, but because they chose to. They're comfortable being their own support system, which is a superpower in itself. You know, being alone isn't always easy. It takes guts to face your own thoughts, to sit with your emotions, and to confront whatever life throws at you without immediately running to someone else to fix it. But that's where resilience is born, in those quiet moments when no one else is around to hold you up. It's about learning to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and say, "All right, let's try this again," even when everything feels like a mess. And here's the thing, resilient people don't avoid pain or struggle. Nope. They've seen enough of life to know that hard times are part of the deal. But instead of letting those tough moments break them, they use them as fuel. It's like they've got this inner alchemy that turns adversity into strength. Sure, they might stumble or fall, but they always get back up. Maybe not right away, but eventually. And when they do, they're even stronger than before. What's really cool is how their resilience shows up in little ways, too. It's not always about surviving some massive, life-changing event. Sometimes, it's just about showing up for yourself day after day. It's about sticking to your own rhythm, even when the world feels like it's moving at 1,000,000 miles per hour. It's about finding peace in your own company and knowing that, no matter what happens, you'll figure it out. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but you will. This resilience isn't loud or dramatic, it's steady and unshakable. It's like they've made peace with the fact that life isn't always fair, and that's okay. They don't let setbacks define them or keep them stuck. They adapt. They grow. They keep moving forward, even if it's just one tiny step at a time. So yeah, resilience isn't just something they have, it's something they are. And that's pretty incredible when you think about it. They're living proof that no matter how hard life gets, you can always find a way to keep going. Number 7, strong sense of independence. A strong sense of independence is like a badge of honor for older people who love their alone time. They don't just wear it, they live it, breathe it, and embody it in everything they do. It's not about stubbornly refusing help or isolating themselves from the world. No, it's way deeper than that. It's about having the confidence and capability to navigate life on their own terms. They don't need anyone to complete them or tell them what to do, they've got it handled. Let's be real, independence doesn't just happen overnight. It's something they've earned through years of experiences, challenges, and growth. They've learned how to solve their own problems, make their own decisions, and trust their own judgment. That's a big deal in a world where so many people rely on others for guidance or validation. They know what they're about, and they're not afraid to stand alone, even if it's not the easiest path. What's really inspiring is the quiet strength that comes with their independence. They don't shout it from the rooftops or try to prove anything to anyone. They just go about their lives, making choices that reflect who they are and what they want. It's not about being defiant, it's about being free. Free from unnecessary dependencies, free from societal pressures, and free to live in a way that feels authentic to them. One of the coolest things about their independence is how it spills into every area of their life. Need something fixed? They'll figure it out. Want to try something new? They're diving in head first. They're not waiting around for someone else to take the lead because they know they're perfectly capable of doing it themselves. And if they don't know how, they'll learn. That's the beauty of their mindset. They're resourceful, adaptable, and unafraid to take on challenges. Their independence also gives them a unique sense of freedom when it comes to relationships. They don't cling to people out of fear or insecurity. Instead, they choose connections that add value to their lives. They're not afraid of being alone because they know they're whole all by themselves. This makes their relationships more meaningful, too. When they let someone in, it's because they genuinely want to, not because they feel they need to. Of course, independence doesn't mean they shut people out or refuse help when it's truly necessary. It's more about knowing they can handle things on their own, but also having the wisdom to accept support when it makes sense. That balance is what makes their independence so solid. It's rooted in self-awareness, not ego. At the end of the day, this strong sense of independence is like their secret superpower. It allows them to live boldly, confidently, and unapologetically. They've built a life that works for them, and they don't need permission to enjoy it. That kind of self-assured independence? It's rare. And it's absolutely inspiring. Number 8, strong boundaries and respect for personal space. One of the standout qualities of older people who genuinely enjoy their own company is their rock-solid sense of boundaries. They've spent enough time with themselves to know what they need, and, just as importantly, what they don't need. This clarity translates into a strong ability to protect their personal space, both physically and emotionally. It's not about being closed off, it's about understanding that everyone, even the most social butterfly, needs a little room to breathe. Let's talk about those boundaries. They're not walls designed to keep people out. No, they're more like gates, deliberately placed and carefully tended. These gates swing open for meaningful connections and slam shut on unnecessary drama, toxic energy, or distractions that derail their peace. It's not about being rude or distant. It's about self-respect, plain and simple. The beauty of this lies in their unapologetic approach to saying no. They've mastered it. Whether it's an invitation that doesn't align with their priorities or a request that stretches them too thin, they decline with grace. They've learned that a no to others is often a yes to themselves. And honestly, That's a lesson most people take a lifetime to figure out. Respecting personal space is a big part of this picture, too. Older individuals who like to spend time alone don't just demand it for themselves, they understand and honor it for others. They know the value of quiet moments and the power of stepping back when someone needs their own bubble of solitude. It's a give-and-take dynamic, and they navigate it with ease. There's no guilt tripping, no overstepping. Just an innate understanding that space is a gift we all need from time to time. Here's the kicker, this boundary-setting ability makes their relationships stronger, not weaker. By carving out time for themselves, they ensure that when they are with others, they're fully present. There's no underlying resentment, no sense of being stretched too thin. They show up as their best selves because they've taken the time to recharge and realign. It's like their relationships get the best version of them, not the tired, overextended one. But let's not sugarcoat it, setting boundaries takes guts. It requires them to know themselves deeply and stand firm when others push back. It's not always easy, and it's definitely not always popular. Yet, they do it anyway because they understand that without boundaries, personal peace is up for grabs. What makes it all work is the quiet confidence they exude. They don't feel the need to justify their choices or explain themselves endlessly. Their actions speak for them, this is what I need, and that's okay. It's a powerful, unspoken message that radiates self-respect and, in turn, commands respect from others. At the heart of it all, these individuals have learned that boundaries and personal space aren't luxuries, they're necessities. They're the foundation for a life that feels balanced, authentic, and uniquely their own. And that's a quality worth celebrating. Number 9, a deeper connection with nature. There's something almost poetic about how older people who like being alone connect with nature. It's not just a casual appreciation, it's a bond, a kind of quiet intimacy that feels as natural as the breeze. For them, nature isn't just scenery or a backdrop, it's a sanctuary, a companion, and sometimes, even a teacher. They don't just see the world around them, they feel it, deeply and completely, in a way that's hard to put into words. You know that feeling when you step outside and everything just slows down? The rustling leaves, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the distant hum of life moving at its own pace, it's like time stands still. That's the kind of vibe they thrive in. They don't need the constant buzz of notifications or the clamor of crowded places. Instead, they find their rhythm in the chirping of birds, the sway of trees, or the way light filters through clouds. Nature speaks to them in its quiet, unhurried language, and they're more than happy to listen. But it's not just about noticing pretty sunsets or enjoying a nice walk. Their connection to nature runs much deeper. It's like they've learned to sync their inner world with the natural one. They see cycles in the seasons, growth, change, rest, and reflect those patterns in their own lives. They've learned to embrace life's ebb and flow, just like the tides. There's wisdom in that, don't you think? Letting go of the need to control everything and just trusting the process, the same way a river carves its path over time. And then there's the way they engage with nature, not as an outsider but as part of it. When they sit under a tree, it's not just about shade, it's about feeling rooted, grounded. When they hear the rain, it's not just white noise, it's a symphony. They don't rush past flowers or streams or the shapes of clouds, they pause, breathe it all in, and let it sink into their bones. It's not performative either. They're not trying to post about it or turn it into some grand declaration. It's private, almost sacred. Spending time alone has a way of sharpening your senses. Without distractions, you notice things others might miss, the way the wind shifts just before a storm, the smell of the earth after rain, the subtle shades of green in a single leaf. Older people who cherish solitude seem to tap into this heightened awareness effortlessly. It's like they've trained their minds to see the magic in the mundane. And nature gives back, doesn't it? It offers a kind of healing that words can't replicate. When the world feels too loud, too fast, too much, nature is always there, steady and constant. It doesn't ask for anything in return. It just exists, offering its beauty and calm to anyone willing to notice. For these folks, that's enough. So, their deeper connection with nature isn't about escapism. It's about harmony. It's about finding balance, peace, and a sense of belonging in the world's oldest rhythm. And honestly, that's pretty awe-inspiring. Number 10. Heightened observational skills. Heightened observational skills are like a secret weapon for older people who value their alone time. It's almost as if spending more time in their own company sharpens their senses, making them incredibly attuned to the world around them. They don't just see things, they notice them. The subtle details, the unspoken cues, the quiet shifts in energy, they pick it all up while most people are too busy rushing through life to even glance around. This kind of observation is more than just a skill, it's almost like an art form. They've mastered the ability to slow down and really take in their surroundings. When others might overlook something, a flicker of emotion on someone's face, the way light dances on water, or the faint smell of rain in the air, these individuals catch it, absorb it, and sometimes even find meaning in it. It's like their minds are wired to notice the little things that make life interesting. One reason their observational skills are so sharp is that they've embraced the quiet. Solitude allows them the space to really look and listen, without the constant noise of distractions. They're not buried in endless conversations or glued to their phones, so they have the time to simply observe. It's a habit that's grown stronger over the years, like a muscle they've intentionally trained. But their heightened observation isn't limited to the physical world. They're also incredibly good at picking up on emotions and vibes. Maybe it's because they spend so much time reflecting on their own feelings that they've learned to spot what others might be going through, even when it's not obvious. They're the kind of people who can tell when someone's off, even if that person hasn't said a word about it. What's fascinating is how they use these observational skills. They're not just noticing things for the sake of it. They're connecting dots, making sense of patterns, and sometimes even drawing conclusions that others miss entirely. It's not about being a detective or showing off their insights, it's about truly understanding the world and the people in it. It makes them thoughtful and deliberate in how they interact, and that's something people quietly admire about them. And let's not forget, their ability to observe often leads to a deeper appreciation for life. They notice the beauty in the mundane, the symmetry of a tree branch, the rhythm of raindrops on a window, or the quiet hum of a room. It's like they've tapped into a secret layer of reality that others might skim over. That awareness brings a sense of peace and wonder that makes their alone time even more fulfilling. In a way, their heightened observational skills are their superpower. They see the world differently, more clearly, more fully. It's not just about what they notice, it's about how they use those observations to better understand themselves, others, and life as a whole. That kind of insight? It's priceless. Number 11. Unique problem-solving abilities. There's something almost magical about the way older people who enjoy solitude tackle problems. They're not your standard, by-the-book thinkers. Instead, they bring a depth of creativity and calm to the table that sets them apart. It's like their time alone has given them a mental toolbox full of unconventional tools, ones they know exactly how to use when life throws them a curveball. First off, they're not in a rush. When a problem shows up, they don't panic or scramble for the quickest solution just to get it over with. No, they take a step back, maybe even two, and give themselves the space to think. It's almost like they have an internal switch that flips from react to reflect. They know that real solutions take clarity, and clarity comes from slowing down, not speeding up. This approach also means they're great at seeing the bigger picture. They're not the kind to get caught up in minor details or let emotions cloud their judgment. Instead, They zoom out and look at the situation from all angles. What's really going on here? What's the root cause? And most importantly, what's the best way to move forward? These are the questions they ask themselves, not just to find an answer but to find the right answer. Another thing that makes their problem-solving unique is their creativity. Solitude gives them time to think deeply and explore ideas most people don't even consider. They've learned that there's rarely a one-size-fits-all solution to anything. So, they mix and match approaches, draw inspiration from their experiences, and even come up with entirely new ways to tackle challenges. It's like they're artists, but instead of painting on canvas, they're solving life's puzzles. And let's not forget their ability to stay calm under pressure. When others might be losing their cool or spiraling into worst-case scenarios, these folks are steady as a rock. Time alone has taught them how to sit with discomfort and uncertainty, which makes them less likely to be overwhelmed when problems arise. They don't shy away from challenges, they lean into them with quiet confidence, knowing that every problem has a solution, you just have to find it. What's particularly interesting is how resourceful they are. They don't need a ton of fancy tools or elaborate plans to fix something. Give them what's available, and they'll figure out a way to make it work. It's not just about thinking outside the box, it's about realizing the box was never necessary in the first place. They thrive on adaptability, turning even the most chaotic situations into manageable ones with a bit of ingenuity. At their core, these problem solvers are guided by a deep trust in themselves. They've spent so much time learning their own strengths and weaknesses that they know how to approach any challenge with clarity and determination. They're not afraid to fail either. To them, failure is just another step toward the right solution. It's all part of the process. In the end, their ability to solve problems isn't just a skill, it's a mindset. It's a quiet belief that no matter what life throws their way, they have what it takes to handle it. And honestly, that kind of calm, creative confidence is pretty inspiring. Number 12, tendency to prioritize quality over quantity in all aspects of life. When you spend a lot of time alone, you start to see the world differently. You notice what truly matters, and honestly, it's not having more of everything, it's having the right things. Older people who enjoy solitude are pros at this. They're not interested in keeping up with the rat race or chasing after endless options. Instead, they focus on what feels meaningful, valuable, and real. They've cracked the code on prioritizing quality over quantity, and it shows in every corner of their lives. Take their belongings, for example. These folks aren't the type to fill their homes with mountains of stuff just for the sake of it. Nope. They're more likely to have a few items that mean something, a cozy chair that feels like a hug after a long day, a well-worn book that speaks to their soul, or a sturdy pair of shoes that's carried them through countless adventures. They value things that last, things that serve a purpose or bring them joy. It's not about being fancy or minimalist, it's about intentionality. If it doesn't add value to their life, it doesn't make the cut. And it's not just about material stuff. This quality over quantity mindset seeps into their relationships, too. They're not interested in superficial connections or fleeting small talk. They'd rather have a handful of deep, meaningful bonds than a crowd of acquaintances. You know those people who always seem surrounded by noise and chatter but still feel lonely? Yeah, that's not their scene. They'd rather sit in comfortable silence with someone who truly gets them than be in a room full of people who barely scratch the surface. For them, relationships are about depth, not breadth. Even their time gets this special treatment. Time is precious, and they know it. They're not about to waste it on things that don't align with their values or bring them closer to the life they want. They'd rather spend an afternoon immersed in a hobby they love than scatter their energy across a dozen meaningless activities. It's not that they're antisocial or overly picky, it's just that they understand the beauty of focusing on what really matters. When you only have so much time in a day, why not spend it on something that actually fills your cup? Food, experiences, conversations, it's all the same. They're not interested in excess or flashiness, they care about substance. A quiet, heartfelt chat beats a noisy gathering any day. A meal made with care and fresh ingredients means more than a quick bite on the go. A single, well-chosen adventure leaves a bigger impact than a dozen rushed trips. The truth is, this tendency to prioritize quality over quantity isn't about being snobby or difficult. It's about having clarity. It's about knowing who you are, what you need, and what truly makes you happy. They've learned that life isn't about having more, it's about having better. And honestly, that's a lesson we could all use a little more of. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed learning about the incredible qualities of older people who embrace solitude. It's amazing how these qualities shape their lives in such positive ways. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more insightful content, and don't forget to share this with anyone who might appreciate it. Until next time, take care and keep thriving.